I'll be your host tonight because Erica couldn't make it. And I'm not sure if, I don't see Cindy or Sonia out there. I know Mr. Pete is traveling to DC, said he might be on, he might be off. So I don't believe we were going to have a quorum then, unless some other people join in with us. So there was one thing I didn't know. Pete asked Jeff, I don't know if you saw the email. He was wondering what the name of the river, if there was a name to that walk specifically.
I don't have it on the top of my head. Let me check. If I don't have it, I'll email it. And
Okay.
And he also asked for the grant that was for that. I know it was, I believe it was for the NFWF, the NIFWF grant that we received in partnership with the Land Trust and someone else. I forget.
Okay. We're not going to approve the minutes anyway without a quorum.
Do we have any public?
Anyone from public attending?
Nope.
Okay. And we'll defer the minutes. So we'll move to item number 4, I guess. So. Tree planting program for
Yeah.
plantings, Paul.
What I want to do is I'm going to share a screen with you because I want to just kind of, in order to go over what we had, I want to talk about the different funding sources. And some of this is coming in as of recently as last Friday too. So I'm going to share the screen and just go over what we have for different.
It's in
Hi, sorry I'm late.
that you're not late. Don't worry. We're just on to item number 4. I'm your host tonight because Erica's not here.
Okay.
You're stuck with me. Sorry, Paul, go right ahead.
So I just wanted to basically go over what we had, and I kind of divided it up into the various categories. And the first one is funding from, and can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, it's the capital budget for DPW TAC funding. We've got money for the TMP account that they gave us to do work, which I'll explain in a minute. And then we also have another funding source, which is from Economic and Community Development for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Initiative. It's a DECD grant that we had. And then we also had the National Fish Wildlife Foundation Highstead grant that Louise Washer and Lisa Shanahan worked on. And so what I'm going to do now is just go back and kind of, we ended up, once we saw some things in a meeting that we had last week with Anthony Carr, our law office, purchasing, Jessica Vanashek, Vanessa Valadares and I, we were able to get some rules as to where we could put certain things and not put certain things. So it helped to define the money that we had available for capital budget for us. And what I ended up doing basically is you'll see that we had all of the different trees that we had for the various planting programs, 29 trees, and that brought us to $21,000. And what you're going to see is that, and I'm going to minimize this piece right now, get it out of the way. What we ended up with was the cost of all of them came out to $21,751, which we had $34,000 when we were starting. So it left $12,000. But what I ended up doing and was able to do was take, and because of the rules that we were able to determine on Friday with the grant for economic development and the MLK initiative, I was able to take stuff like 15 Madison Street on the Monroe Street side, the 20 trees from there, and the 3 trees from 28 MLK, which is St. Paul's, put those in that pot of money instead of having to leave them in our capital money. So what we ended up with basically is remaining money of $12,000 because the total of those two were $11,988.75. So we would have been very close, and this would have put us right at our budget limit, but we didn't find this out till Friday. So we have right now 10 more locations that we have on the list for the capital budget planting that could be another 15 to 20 trees. So we can start adding those in now to liquidate the remaining balance in the TAC budget. We also did the Wall Street plantings and ordered those that were paid for by a TMP and net account for 11 trees. We were able to, under the MLK initiative, thanks to the efforts of Peter and Rich, walk that area a week ago Thursday. And in doing so, we came up with 81 locations. And Jessica was very happy with that in the corridor approach with the esplanades and the islands, as well as the east side of the road. This original area in here was where we did the cleanup for Arbor Day. So it fulfills what we said we were going to do there and trying to add additional trees. So we came up with 81 trees in that area, plus the Madison, plus the 3 there. So that's 104 trees alone. And then in the grant for the Woodward Avenue area for the Highstead NFWF grant, it was a $10,000 limit. We were able to come up with 18 trees with the various species, and it took us to $9,978, leaving us $21.10 remaining. So it brings the total of plantings for spring of 22 to 162, which is a record for us. And those have been ordered. Some of them have already been planted. Others are in the process of being planted, will be planted over the next couple of weeks. And it'll bring that total of 120,686.90 for what we've spent on trees through all of the different areas. And then just to give you an idea, we had fall of 21, we planted through the TAC budget, DPW 75 trees for 57,384.25, plus we did the TMP Wilton Avenue 18 trees. So over the fiscal year, it brings us to 255 trees planted with a grand total of budget spent of 195,381.15.
That's a hefty record for us. Wow, that's great.
And we could potentially, to liquidate the rest of that 12,000, we could have another 10 to 15 trees on top of that if we can find the last locations and get them all ordered in the next week or two.
Did Gary give any inclination as to timelines as to when he wants orders by and when he wants to stop?
We've sent all of the orders except for these last ones for this 12,000 that I said I have another 10 or more locations. All of this stuff on this sheet up to here, the 162 have already been sent.
Great.
Some of these on the Wall Street area here, the 11, the 18, the Arbor Day ones, Farm Creek, Highland Avenue, those have already been planted.
So he's keeping up with it. That's fantastic.
Yes. He said he could get everything planted for the spring planting and would be fine with the timeline.
That's all good news.
Yeah, so I just wanted to update everybody as to with these funding sources, we're working it out now where we can, and I've been given permission to try where we can to fit them into the different programs like the MLK initiative and things like that. So, and in the next item, I'll get into a couple of other things where there's some other trees that have to go in certain areas too.
Yeah, which brings us to that item. So we roll right into it.
Tree planting program contract for the RFP. We are going to have to put out a new RFP because on Friday when we met, we found out there's some other funding available too. We have GGP funds available of $50,000, but that's through economic and community development. That is specifically for Sono and can be utilized now. But we also have ARPA funding for DPW TAC of $200,000 that basically is available to be spent until December 31st of 2024. So that's $200,000 there, and economic and community development has $500,000. So that brings us to a total for ARPA funding of $700,000 to be done by December 31st of 2024. So when we talked with purchasing, right now, the current contract with Olmsted, it has a threshold maximum not to exceed of $130,000 a year, which when we did the contract last fall was exactly what we thought we would be spending, not knowing we were going to get all of this ARPA money and the other grants. So talking with purchasing, talking with the law office, and talking with Anthony Carr, that basically takes the 130 to, if you divided it by 2 years to 700, it's 350. It basically over triples the contract value. So purchasing thought for transparency, it would probably be best if for the ARPA funding, we went out for another RFP. And in addition, there's contract language for the federal funding guidelines that has to be included in the contract when it's advertised, which was not in the original Olmsted contract because nobody knew about it. So that said, what we're going to be doing is putting a new RFP out very soon, specifically for the ARPA, the ARPA money for the $700,000.
So the new RFP would be for a contractor to start planting as early as this fall season. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And with the DPW TAC money, the 200, that's for anywhere in the city.
Mm-hmm. So that'll
So
hit.
that's why we were getting the guidelines of these different grants and programs together for, like I mentioned, the ECD MLK initiative was just for the Sono area in a specific area. The GGP funds coming in are for Sono only. And our ARPA money can be used anywhere, as our capital money can be used anywhere. And then, of course, the Highstead grant, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, that had to be used specifically in the Woodward Avenue Sono area. So that's why we were moving some things around to try and maximize the money and spread it out as much as we could around the city.
That's great. Sooner the RFP goes out, the better, I say.
Yes, that purchasing is already working on it and putting together information for the ARPA requirements on top of taking what we had utilized before for our last contract and putting it all together to get it back out and advertised.
Wow, making some huge progress. Good job. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thank you
next
for
up.
your efforts too.
Number 6, Tree Advisory Committee. Kudos to Erica, even though she's not here. She got us 2 grants. We'll defer that item till next month and she can update us on the stats on that. But I know she works hard at that and she once again has successfully secured 2 of them. So I'm waiting to hear about that. Olmsted Tree Watering Maintenance Program next, Paul. I know we had some hot weather. We had tons and tons of rain and then severe heat.
Okay. And let me get over to the. Yeah, that's for a second. Let me get back in. Everybody see the Olmsted spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. They basically started up around the 12th of May, Ludlow Park. They had done watering in gator bags over on Main Street, the Clouds and Cherries. They had done last year. They were over at the TMP work that we did over on Wilton Avenue. They just water all of those trees in those areas there. Madison Street, the work that we did last year, they had put and did watering there. That was an old order. They also went down and did work over at Merrill, up on Merrill Road. They put those in the fall. So everything they did on the 11th of May, they added gator bags over at Norwalk Elementary School, where we had just done the work for planting the trees for Arbor Day. They had gone and watered over on the 30th of April, day after they did the plantings. And then all of the stuff that we did over on East Avenue, Park Street, as some of those orders we just talked about, they had already been back, watered them on the 30th. And then because those were all planted prior to the 23rd of April, and then they went back and watered and gator bagged some of the trees on the 12th of May.
Well, I got a question with the maintenance. I'm glad to see they're doing so much of it. Does his guys, when I say his guys, I mean Gary's guys, report to him if there's a tree they feel is weak or struggling, so they know to like pay extra attention to that particular?
They will mention it. I've had several of them where the Gary's come back and said, hey, my team has found X, Y, and Z. So yes, there are times where I've had it come back to me through them.
I know he's not required to like line item that on the maintenance report, but could you ask him if he'd be willing to like make note of those so we can monitor them? I know I went to Aiken Street because I would kind of like handled that project, and I was concerned with a couple of them over there and one that had tipped, but I'm sure I'm not seeing all the locations that they're planting at.
He's given me several of them, so it sounds like the guys are, but I can have that conversation with him. And
It'd be very helpful if you could do it.
yeah, that particular one that you're talking about, the willow has been planted now, and that tree's been straightened up.
Oh, great.
That's already done. Mario reported to me, one of the assistant engineers who was involved with that project over there, told me that that was taken care of yesterday.
Good.
And one other thing on that.
Go to that on the report. I mean, that's the stuff. I mean, that I know myself, I want to pay special attention to. Not that I don't want good news saying everything's looking great, but the ones that are under warranty that are struggling or anything, are the ones we really want to monitor in case we need to replace them.
And he also has brought attention to us with some trees that were in a dangerous situation over the years too. They were going out to a site to do something and said, hey, by the way, there's a city tree over here that's got a real issue with it you want to take a look at. So they have done that too.
Yeah. Yeah. While he's out there, that makes sense. Fantastic.
Rich, on that same one or same vein, when they go out and monitor it, I'm sure they do, but just be sure that they take a look at the how well it's dripping, because sometimes the holes on the bottom get clogged and then the water remains in the bag, and they'll go and check it and say, oh, it's filled with water, but it's really not escaping the bag.
Yeah, they're not
At all.
weeding the bag, correct. Yeah, and then we think they just filled it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had that happen a couple times, and
No,
I
I've
look at
seen
the
that
bottom.
happen as well. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes you actually get like not a defective bag, but I guess the weep holes have to be cleaned out and you could still reuse the bag, but that's a very valid point.
Yeah. Okay. I'll mention it to him.
Yeah. Because if his guys go there, they may, depending on who the guy is, he may say, oh, I don't have to fill this one up. And then,
I was looking at the dates that it was last watered, and I was like, oh, some of them maybe they skipped a week or two because it was full or whatever, but I'm sure they would notice that. So
yeah. Oh, very good point. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, next update. Oh, that's me, Arbor Day cleanup. So on Thursday, April 28th, which was the 86th day of January, I believe, we did the Arbor Day cleanup. We were on MLK southbound west side of MLK. I say 86th day of January because it was another cold, blustery day. It felt like it was still January, but the sun came out later on. It wasn't raining or snowing. This was a different type of Arbor Day event. It wasn't like, where we have hands-on community people. It was professional tree care companies. And we worked on Martin Luther King Drive from Washington all the way up to Low Street on the west side, as I said. We had multiple tree companies there. I think I counted 7 bucket trucks and 2 chipper trucks. We did a lane closure. We pruned about 35 large shade trees. I know we pruned all the young London plane trees that were planted, I think 3 or 4 years ago. They'd got their first developmental structural pruning and light elevation. They all look good, I'm happy to say. We did a lot of brush cleanup and, a couple of dangerous trees we took out that were threatening the roadway. One was leaning into one of the larger mature London planes. So we got a lot of work done. I think it went off great, went without a hitch. I don't know, Paul took some pictures of that. If you can put them up on the board and share them with everyone, it was a great event. At the end of the event, we all circled back up in Sono parking lot. So we had,
The beginning right there.
which I gotta say, those guys did a fantastic job. We had Lewis crews out there. They were Hutchinson guys. They were the best crew, I have to say. The Lewis guys were like super conscientious because there weren't any wires there. So they wanted to make sure they were doing the right thing. They asked more questions than anybody. That's where we all rounded up back in the parking lot at the end of the event. We had pizza, some sodas. We had the mayor come out. We had Anthony Carr, head of Public Works, come out. Paul was there, obviously, all the guys there. Everybody worked really hard. We got a lot of work done. It was a half-a-day event. That was all done in anticipation for all the planting sites that Paul just reviewed that we're going to be putting new trees in that with the funding. It's going to make a huge impact on that part of town. It's one of the tougher spots to find areas to plant in. I think it's really unique because there aren't any overhead wires, so nothing gets butchered or harassed by the power company. We had the power company guys out helping us, but they were just doing regular pruning. And it was a great event. We did a lane closure, so traffic kept moving. We also had the professor from Norwalk Community College Arts Department. One of his students did graphics and made signs for the event, and Paul printed them up. So we needed to send a thank you note to, ironically, Professor Alvord is his name. I don't know if there's any relationship. We'll find out.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was a coincidence.
Coincidence, but it's all in good faith. So all in all, it was a great event. I had a lot of fun. I think everybody worked hard and everybody felt really good about it when they were done. And it's to call, awareness to the value of trees to the urban forests in the city. And it was just a really fun event. We got a lot done.
Yeah, I drove down there. It looks really smart afterwards. It looks really good.
Yeah. And I'm hoping like the next leg of the journey, we go beyond Low Street, some of the funding, and there's a lot of opportunities for more plantings down there. So we could extend the canopy along MLK. And I think most of that's, well, maybe not most of it. Some of it's going to be private. Some of it's going to be city right away. So it's going to take a little legwork, but it would make a big improvement on that corridor. So that was our Arbor Day cleanup event. I deliberately did that the day before the real Arbor Day because I didn't want to take away from regular Arbor Day ceremonies and things. So, and that was kind of like a little different because it was tree companies. So we did that the day before, Thursday, the 28th. The real Arbor Day was Friday, the 29th, which is our next item. That was Arbor Day celebration. So Paul, you can update us on that one, please.
Okay, we had a great event at the school at Norwalk Elementary School. The kids were great. It was a lot of people. We got a variety of people to come out. We ended up planting 2 red maple trees and a red bud tree. And I'll just share real quickly with you a couple of items that of interest. And what they ended up doing is they wanted to plant the maple tree along the road. So we were able to get a couple of maple trees in these areas where my cursor is over here, where it really needed some trees. We didn't go further because there's a sign right in here. And then they had the ceremony over in this area. The kids were over here, and they planted a red bud tree over in here. An Eastern red bud pink is what they decided that they wanted to plant. So They also had a program, which I can show you the program. The art department did a really great job with that. And it was interesting when they did that because the pamphlet, and I'll share that. We can get it. Come back. And let me see if we can get this to come up. It's not. It froze. So let me see if I can get it back. So what we ended up doing, and I'll go on to the pictures basically, because there was a really good group of pictures that we were able to get. This is the picture of the red bud tree. We gave out seedlings, and I want to give a big call out to one of the guys, Maria from Olmsted, had a little bit of an issue and was not able to go into the spray costume this year. So one of the guys from Rexham Park agreed to do it for us in a pinch. So we stepped up big time and helped out a lot. We were able to, as you see, have quite a few kids outside. It was a great day out there. The mayor read the proclamation. The kids once again, and we were able to have the kids do a lot of the emceeing of the program. And Sam Berg from Eversource came out and spoke at the program. The one thing I want to mention, and they did a great job again too, is Eversource donated 300 seedlings, and these were not seedlings, they were small trees because they were so large. And it was a variety of species of native trees. And once again, Olmsted bagged all of them for the kids to take home. And they also gave us an additional 200 seedlings. Dr. Estrella spoke. They had the poster contest again this year, and Doubletree gave each one of the winners of each one of the grades, K through 5, free night stay at the hotel like they usually do.
I don't think, Paul, are you seeing or sharing pictures? I don't see any.
It was supposed to be. All right, I'll go through them again.
No.
Thank you. Thanks for telling me. Try again. All right, I'm gonna go back to the beginning for you so you guys
You
can
got
see them.
you had the red bud. Yep, they're coming up.
Yep.
There's the red bud. There's Sprig, some council members, the kids being entertained, the mayor's proclamation. Another shot of the kids. Sam Berg doing his speech. Dr. Estrella, the posters. And then the planting of the tree.
Nice.
And then that's the Arbor Day flag, Tree City USA flag we had flown for most of the month of April here at City Hall over at the baseball field.
Very nice.
So overall, it was a great day. We were able to get 3 trees planted and educate the kids as well.
First real Arbor Day since COVID, correct?
Yes. Thanks for telling me, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, that was a good event.
Yeah, sounds real good. Good job. Okay, next on the item is Norwalk River Tour. This is the item I brought up at the beginning. Mr. Pete's not with us, so Jeff, if you can handle that, tell us what you guys did, be great.
Yeah, it was a great event. It was an educational walk hike. There were 3 components, which was the river. So we have a NOAA biologist and ecologist on our board. P.E. Clark. So he gave a little bit of a education on what lives in the river and why it's important to maintain, healthy stormwater before it gets into the river. We discussed a couple different characteristics of the river and how it can change shapes and why that's important and what lives in each different ecosystem. And then ultimately it goes into the Norwalk Harbor, which is, tidal influence, and then that goes into the bay. And we talked about how the river gives us the city of Norwalk, a sense of place and why it's such a key resource for us as a city, and why we should keep it healthy. So then Peter gave us, a talk. It was a talk throughout. It was probably around about 2.5 miles. It took us about an hour to go all the way around. And Peter talked about economy and how the river provides the city of Norwalk a key, it helps drive economy throughout the city. So it's important to bring the trail into areas of commerce because it brings pedestrian, biking and walkers to essentially businesses and local businesses. So it's your local population shopping locally. He also went into a bit of the history of how we've gotten here and how Norwalk has developed through mills, and it's essentially a tale of two cities of Wall Street and Sono, and they're all connected by the river. So why is it important to keep the river healthy? It's because it connects us all. And then I gave a talk about the importance of keeping invasive species out, and the importance of native trees, which is the key goal of the Norwalk Tree Alliance in promoting and maintaining a healthy native tree canopy for the city. So these are all areas along the trail to advocate for plantings of native trees and native understories. It cleans water before it enters the river. It provides a big, social, mental health impact just by walking and getting out and seeing greenery. And it also, sustains pollinators and species. It sustains more species of animals and insects than a non-native would. So all in all, it was a great walk. We probably wished for more. We had I believe 6 attendees there, but it was still good. It was early in the morning, and it's 6 new minds who didn't know about us or know about the River Valley Trail and its connection to Norwalk, and now they're out and advocating for us. We got their emails and their names, so we'll follow up with thank yous and thanks for attending. And yeah, overall it was a really good event.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Good job. That section that they just did opposite the cemetery, is that 2.5 miles, sir?
So we went from the cemetery underneath Route 7 into Wall Street by Freeze Park. Then we looped around to, I want to say it's Union Park.
Union Park, I believe.
And
Yeah.
double on the trail, on the River Valley Trail. So we went into the city a little, or into Wall Street downtown, which isn't necessarily the River Valley Trail, but it walks along the river. And then we kind of came back up, and just hats off to Peter and the team for putting that together, because it was Peter did a lot of research on the history, and we planned out the route, and I think it went off well. So
Good. Hopefully that gets a lot of use. That looks very nice looking trail. I went and looked at part of it when it was under construction.
yeah, it's still under construction. They put up a fence, so we'll just I'd be interested in seeing the vegetation management, just because if vines get up on that, I'd like to not have them block the view to the river, because the river's just, it's really beautiful. So
Yeah, parts are really
it was
good.
so nice.
That's one of the things that Peter's talked about for many years, is trying to get the view of the river and have from different areas as you're walking and driving and different areas of Wall Street and that, to be able to see the views, even up on Wilton Avenue, mentioned the view of the river, to try and take advantage of it.
Yeah, there's some key spots we can, maybe limb up some of the larger trees and devegetate around behind the Avalon, or the whatever is called the confluence now. It's a really pretty area there, and a lot of the trees are low limbed, and they're kind of blocking the view into the river. So if I don't know, maybe we'll take a look and see how we can do that. I don't know who does that, if it's private or if it's city. So
You have to take a look. It might depend upon exactly where it is, but as you said before, and people have mentioned it, Peter's mentioned it, the river and the waterfront in Norwalk is a big asset and gives the city the character it has. So trying to take advantage of it as much as you can.
yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, then next is MTA activities also for you, Jeff.
All right. So hi, welcome. I'm Jeff again. We got a couple things going on in June. Well, really just one main thing. Actually, no, a couple of them. So 6/11 is Pride in the Park. We'll have a booth there. Then we have a fundraising event for Queen's Tea. That's 6/21. That's going to be at one of our board members' homes. She graciously opened up her home to us for a fundraising event. So we have a list of a couple, I think we invited the mayor and a couple of just big donors that we're looking for. But it was a fun way to sort of commemorate the Queen of England, because it's her platinum jubilee, and instead of gifts, or in lieu of gifts to her, or I don't know what even happens, she asked people planted trees. So it was a way for us to sort of have a fun Queen's Tea event for fundraising for trees, and we're looking for areas to have a Queen's Grove. So we wanted to get into a couple of different ways and fun ways of advocating for trees, and maybe fundraising for trees, and then hopefully ultimately planting trees around something that in the Queen's Tea kind of seemed like a cool event. Then in July, we have a number of grants from the taxing districts coming in. 3rd taxing district, 6th taxing district, and SNW. We do a tree lottery for 3rd taxing district. We're in the works with that with Cynthia currently. The 6th taxing district, it'll be a number of privately planted trees. And then South Norwalk is a new grant. We're looking to do something similar to the tree lottery, but maybe we'll go out and actually scope some different areas in South Norwalk that we can plant. Each one of those grants are about 8 or 10 trees funded. And we also had a good meeting. Paul, I believe, was there. Sorry, Paul, I don't know if you were there or not, but I think you were at the we had a meeting with Norwalk Public Schools. One of the teachers, Joe, who's a social studies teacher, and I believe maybe science teacher, was really advocating for plantings at Ponus Ridge. So we came up with a plan for 9, and the city Parks and Rec was there, so Ken Hughes was there, and then William Hodel was there, and everyone seemed to be really on board with the 9 trees going in. So we're looking at a fall planting there, just for coordination and sourcing. And then we also, it sounded like we got a good, what's the right word? Sophia was that her name? She was supportive of, in the Norwalk public schools were in support of continuing plantings at schools, like significant plantings. Because we know that schools are very bare, and part of it's a maintenance issue, but also there's so much opportunity to really plant at these schools. So if we can get as many plants in as possible, that'd be great. And obviously we want all parties to be on board with that. So, if there's multiple plantings going on, we'll just have to, be in touch with the schools and Parks and Rec and maintenance as well. So
We
that
were
was
able
good.
to take advantage with Jeff talking about the schools in the past. We had a captive audience with the schools and a friend from the past, Sandra Fios, who's now an assistant superintendent
Right,
from
Sandra.
Brookside Elementary School as the principal when we had Arbor Day over there. So she was well aware of the programs and everything else that the Tree Advisory Committee and the Tree Alliance had done. So she was more than willing when we had told her we were looking to maybe see if we could do some more stuff at schools. She was happy to hear it.
Yeah, and there's also a good the teacher Joe, I forget his last name. I call him Mr. G.
Giordurco, I think.
Yeah, I don't have him in front of me. I didn't want to butcher it, but so he's sort of spearheaded this whole connection with us and with the NTA and the city and the schools. So he really kind of rounded up a lot of what we did yesterday, and he's been in favor of potentially developing a student-led design project and design effort for Ponus Ridge specifically. But I mean, you can really, if you get the students involved and hands-on incorporated into the curriculum, that's where we can kind of help as the Norwalk Tree Alliance, and then they can develop and design, campus planning and introduce them to green jobs and environmental jobs just early on, which was awesome. So, and design jobs early on. So just getting them interested was key. And, we're trying to, it was an opportunity to teach kids the right way to take care of the environment. And currently it's just large expanses of lawn, which aren't so helpful. So if we can put back some more trees in there, I think we're doing a good job for us and a good service for, educating the youth as they grow up. So
There's a lot of things we can get into to help out with just what Jeff is talking about too, with one of the things being the right tree in right place, that kind of thing. Because we had talked a little bit yesterday, we wanted to make sure that none of it was going to be where they had just put in the new galleries for the drainage system and that kind of stuff, because it would clog the system. And those questions came up. It's all stuff that can be taught to the kids too, and what to look for when you select sites.
right.
I think that's all great. Tree Alliance is obviously keeping extremely busy. And I'm happy to hear you bring up schools because we're on to other business. And I have one item I want to bring up regarding one of the schools. So I sent Paul and Erica some pictures a week or so ago regarding Jefferson School. So I drove by Jefferson School. For those of you who don't know, it has been under construction, a redo, remodeling. And it's always been like a kind of an eyesore school as far as I'm concerned, because it was all pavement. I think one of their parking lots was a converted tennis court, and it was pretty barren of trees. So I went by it a couple of weeks ago and I was like, holy moly, look at all the trees they put in, and really good sized ones. So I
They put
stopped.
them in by the parking lot too.
Yeah, in the parking lot as well. And so I was like so impressed. I actually stopped, turned around, sent a couple of text messages, and then drove back and took pictures and rattling Paul and Erica on the weekend saying, and also I copied Ken Hughes on the message because Ken is instrumental in the design of this. So he told me he was working with Board of Ed in the design for the landscape. They were originally going to put shrubs in for the original plan. And Ken convinced them about the value of the trees, and hot spots. They had a parking lot now. They got islands with trees in them. All the trees along the frontage of the school actually work as street trees. And they didn't put little dinky trees in. They went with big, like instant impact trees. So
Nice trees.
Ken tremendously, I think. And then I volunteered to draft a letter from the Tree Advisory Committee to the Board of Ed, recognizing them for working on a green space, which is what the Tree Advisory Committee does. And obviously the Tree Alliance is already doing, and everybody working together, because this is a great opportunity to get this incorporated into part of the construction project. So they got a new school with a new facelift, and they got like an instant landscaping with some really nice canopy trees. They're going to continue to mature and get bigger and really help the whole city. So I wanted
Nice too, they even put them between the fence and the
What?
shrubs on the side, all the way down on the side here too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanna second that, Rich. That's a great point. I drove by and I was actually very impressed as well. Is that with the ordinance that is that in lieu of the ordinance that we put in and the town worked on, or is that just
No,
privately?
because they didn't have to take anything out, so I don't think it's within the ordinance. So there wasn't anything there to begin with. So I think it's part of the remodel. They just, with Ken's help, they put trees into the design instead of shrubs, which I'm like, that's exactly what we want to see happen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. I wanted to share it with everyone.
Yeah, it looks really nice. I live up that way.
Yeah, I would.
To answer your question though, Jeff, what we've done though with the ordinance and internally with the city, all of the projects now, we are trying to incorporate, if we have anything that we're doing, to try and incorporate money for tree planting in the project. For example, I had to take a couple of small trees down at the Rowayton Avenue Bridge, and it was no choice because of the access in just where the walls had to be. So those older trees had to come down. They're probably going to put 3 to 5 trees back as part of the project.
Awesome.
And that saves money now too for the DPW TAC budget too, because a lot of times we were taking that money out of that budget to plant before. Now we're incorporating it into the individual project.
Yeah, but I just want to say I concur with Jeff. Most of the schools are all in need of trees. I know that we've targeted a couple of them. And I think seeing that happen and having the Tree Alliance work with looking at schools as a plantation. I mean, our schools should have tons of trees as far as I'm concerned. So that was great to see them all go in over there.
We did mention that a couple of times yesterday, right, Jeff?
Yeah, no, we did. Absolutely. We're taking one tree down that's really like a shrubby juniper tree. And we're putting in 4 linden trees and 5 or potentially 6 maples. I believe they're sugar maples. So good, and they'll go in at a good size. And I was just happy to hear that they didn't have a lot of negative or kickback to it or pushback for it. So they were in favor of it. And then we could potentially, do a pollinator pathway underneath each tree that goes in, that creates a network, and that keeps lawn mowers and weed whacking away from the base of the trees, which ultimately will give the tree a better chance of survival. But yeah, I'm glad Rich brought that up, because the school, I was impressed, and it's good to see sort of the mindset on trees changing with new public projects like the schools. So that was awesome.
Why don't you mention something else that would be something that would really warm the heart of somebody from the past on the TAC too, with Andrew, of the learning part of it that you mentioned with the outdoor classroom up there? The potential of building that you were talking about for the teaching area outside?
Oh, so the trees delineate a area for kids that right now it's just it's not really contained, so it's difficult to teach. But that might be something different, because I know that they were looking at continuing along the walkway. They had potential for an outdoor classroom in the back with a whole vegetable garden. If that might be what you were alluding to, because
Yes.
I think Joe has been in talks with the city and the school district, and again, they're all on board for it. So there's a back area behind the school that's sort of protected and that has room for some shade trees. They have a couple of vegetable gardens there currently, and they're looking to expand that and then also do like an outdoor classroom. So
Great.
Like I said, Andrew would be very happy to hear that after all the work he had with Alan related to the outdoor classroom over at Fodor Farm.
yeah, we're looking, we're actually looking ahead for that. So hopefully we're looking to fund it, but nothing's coming yet. So the woman who had passed, there was she had I forget where she lived, in Wilton. She wished to remain anonymous, but we got a call from an attorney from that her estate was donating a significant amount of monies to different charitable organizations that were environmentally friendly. So we're looking to have a piece of that potentially support an outdoor classroom at Fodor Farm. We have presented it to Parks and Rec, and we did get a bill of support. Obviously, we have to go through the construction drawings and whatnot, but that money hasn't really developed yet. But that's sort of, we're excited for that to be on the horizon.
Awesome. Anybody else with any items for new business or other business? If not, we're just about to our hour limit. I'm going to motion to close the meeting. Thank everybody for coming. Revisit the couple of items we took off will be on next month, and I'll zoom back at everybody next month.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Rich.
Have a
All right,
good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
All
Thank
right.
Happy
everybody.
Memorial
Thank
Day.
you.